the projects, right? We discussed about the projects, like what is a project and what do we mean by the devices within it, right? Devices within it. And then we also discussed about the worker processes, right? Like how does worker processes are created and they are assigned the work, right? And how does that calculation happen, right? So we discussed all of that yesterday. So from the discussion, right, we came up to a point. Let's say again, let's take one example. So what we have is we have let's say one project. When we say project, like we have one setting which is, let's say, Chrome. I want to run things on Chrome. So this is one thing, and I have a test file which is also one. Let's say right. So I have a one test file, and that test file has, let's say, one test case as of now. Only one test case. Okay. Now if I ask Playwright to run my code, right, what it will do is it will spin up one worker node. Why? Because the calculation of this is project into test file. Okay, number of project into number of test file. So this becomes one into one becomes one, right? Now this part. Now in the same discussion, we were discussing about one more thing, right? Let's say if we have two test cases here, right? Right? Let's say even if you run in the default mode, this will still generate only one worker process. Okay, because by default Playwright only creates worker process per file. Okay, that's the default way of working, right? So even if you run in the default way and this is the setup, what will happen is it will open just one worker process. So this one worker process will start this test case one, and once it is done with it, only then it will start the second test case, right? That is how things run. But if you want to change this, right, you wanted to have a capability where every test case can receive its own worker process. So what you can do is in the conf file, in your conf file, there is a setting called fully parallel. You just need to turn it to true. By default, it is false. You just need to turn it to true. And once you set this to true, right, what will happen is it will not now Playwright will not look at particular test files. No, it will now look at test case levels. So in this case, right, you have two test cases, right? So what it will do is it will generate two worker nodes, two worker processes, right? And what it will do is worker one and worker two are okay. And worker one will be given the Chrome instance. This will be given the Chrome instance because you're using the Chrome browser, and it will run test case one and it will run test case two. And this is how things functions. Okay, and this is what we also saw in the yesterday's class. But just understand this is not the default behavior. To make it enable, you will have to do this part. Now this also raises a very important point in Playwright, that if you want something to run in parallel, so you're also saying that these test cases which you have written, right, are in a way complete in themselves, right? They are not dependent on other test cases. Okay, so that philosophy or that mindset has to be there while designing the test case. So what you're saying is that this test case 2 and this test case 2 is not dependent on test case 1. They can run in any sequence, they can run without each other, right? If that is what you have created, only then making this uh, true, right, will really help you. If your test case 2 is dependent on some work done by test case 1, then it does not make sense to run them in parallel. Correct. So it should be run in series only, one by one after another, right? And that is what Playwright also says, right? So Playwright says that, see, again, I'm trying to focus on the parallel part, right? First of all, if you look at parallelism, Playwright always says that I am of the opinion that that things should run parallel. And what I am suggesting as a playwright thing, what Playwright suggests is do one thing, or create your test files, right? And create your as many test files you need, right? But those should be isolated. So one test file should not have any dependency on other test file. Okay, this should be like this. You can create as many, and let's say, because see, ideally in the ideal world, what should happen is your every test case should be isolated, and that is the premise which I have given in WebDriver IO also, and that is what I have given in the Selenium or Bootcamp also, right? Your test case, you should design your test case in a way that it is isolated, or there is another word which I use, which is atomic or atomic, right? When I say atomic, it means that it is that if you want to run this test case, right, test case one, you should be fearless that okay, that that I can just run it, right, without worrying whether I need to run some other test cases to make it run. Getting it? So if this test case needs to have some data, it should be the responsibility of this test case to generate it and then work upon it, then finish its own task. And if there is some tear down, that then that also should be controlled by this test case. Okay. If you are able to achieve it, then you will say that your test case is isolated and atomic. And that is the primary key to achieve parallelization, right, in your framework and make your framework scalable. Okay, that is the root thing for every framework you talk about, Selenium, WebDriver IO, or maybe this part, right, the Playwright part. In WebDriver IO, they do not support running multiple test cases in a single file parallelly, right? But they do support the test files to run in parallel. But in Playwright, they are giving you an advantage to run things in parallel at a test case level. Test case level. Selenium also supports it using TestNG, right? But there it is you who have to design it accordingly. But here Playwright is giving you the capability. Okay. So what you have to do is, if you have two test cases here, right, make sure that they are complete in themselves. Okay. So that if you tomorrow decide to run them in parallel, they can work in parallel. Okay. Now the default nature of parallel is, what Playwright says is, what Playwright recommends. What Playwright recommends. It says that run test files in parallel. Okay, and this is the default mode, and it will always work in this way. So for every test file, it creates a new worker process, and it has its own life, which it works. If you want to change this behavior, and let's say you want to, instead of test files, you wanted to run test cases in parallel, for that you will have to change this parameter. Just set this parameter to true. Set this parameter to true, that fully parallel equals to true. Okay, and now it will work accordingly, right? Okay, and here, right, in when you said run test file in parallel, if you have this test file 1 and test file 2, and you have this setting, what will happen is, it will create one worker node for this, one worker node for this. This worker node will run all the test cases written here in series, one after another. Similarly here, right, these two are running in parallel, but the thing inside these tests in this file, right, are running in series. Okay, this is what is happening, and this is a very important thing to understand, because if you understand this flow, right, you will be able to better design your test cases. Okay, so there is a concept of isolated or atomic thing, right, atomicity at the test case level, which is like something on you to make sure that your test cases are written in this way. Okay. Okay, so this is what parallelization is in Playwright. Okay, since it is what controls your worker processes, so I thought to cover it here. Okay, so yesterday our question was like fully parallel, right? Like what happens in to the workers? So the answer to that query is yes, depending on how many test cases you have, right? And what you will, by default, what you'll do is it will try to calculate as many worker processes for you. Okay, but there is a setting here, right? There's a setting here in conf file. If you go in the conf file, let me close all this. If you go to the conf file, there is a setting here where you can also control the workers. This one, this setting, workers, right? So this is a key, and this is what is currently it has. Okay, so okay, this is again by default given to us, right? I have not written this, but let me explain you what is happening. Does anyone understand what is happening here? This is workers. What is this part? Do you understand this code of line?
I think it is fetching some environment variable, and then it is fetching environment variables and setting for the workers.
So it is setting the environment variables, and what do we mean by this part?
Not sure.
Okay, so it is a ternary operation, right, in JavaScript, similar to Java, right? So what happens here is, this is like a if-else thing. What is happening here is, this is, see, what is happening is, this is the key, right? This is an object, right? We're trying to create an object here because this is curly braces. So this is one key, this is a value for it. This is another key, value for it. Another key, value for it. Another key, value for it. Similarly, this is a key, and here the value is being calculated. How it is calculating? It is saying, it is right while calculate. So this is like an if else block, right? It is checking process environment CI. So there is a environment variable called CI, which is enabled by default in the environment variables, right? And this will only be set if you are running your test cases in a CI environment like Jenkins, like GitHub, right? Like on any of these. If you are running your code in that kind of a setup, the value of the CI, right, would be set to true. Okay, it means that you are running on a CI environment. Since I am running currently on my locally right environment, the value of this variable would be what? False. And if it is false, it will take this value. If it was true, it will take this value. Getting it? This is a ternary operator, like a if else, right? A shortcut to if else. So what is happening is it is taking a value of this variable. Currently, it is not set. So if it is not set, what will be the, so this is false right now. Okay. So what will happen is you are setting undefined to workers. And what does it mean? It means that it is unlimited. You are not setting a value, so it is by default unlimited, depending on your underlying infra. So my infra supports 8 worker process. So at max, it will be very happy to run 8 things. But here you are said that whatever processes you are given, right? Please create them accordingly. Okay. Yeah, Anand.
Okay, look, a question. Like this is for the first time I'm seeing a setting specific to CI. So I'm still not able to differentiate why it is like this way. We learned like we did work with WebDriver IO, and also in my current automation project that I'm working, there is like nothing as this kind of setting that is there. So
This part you're saying, right?
yeah, like why specific this setting for a CI part? What exactly differentiates from our let's say I don't update these settings and I just design a pipeline and it just picks this code when I manually trigger that from a Jenkins pipeline. So how different will that scenario compare to when I set up a particular field value in this one?
See, again, you do not need to complicate this. What you have to understand is that when you run things on a CI agent, right? Like a CI server. What are
Mhm.
your CI servers? Jenkins, GitHub, GitLab, right?
Yes.
I think Bamboo, or there are Team City, right? These are all CI servers. If
Mhm.
you run things on these things, right, what will
Mhm.
happen is they will automatically set a environment variable, right, for your code, and that environment variable is CI, right? This one, CI, and they will turn that value to true. Okay, so it's like they themselves create a environment variable, right, which becomes available for your code also. And what happens here is that the value of that is set to true. If you are not running on any of these setup, the value of this variable would be by default false. Okay, and this is what it is taking an advantage of. It is checking whether this value is true or false. It would be only true if it is running on that kind of a setup. If it is not, if it is not running on those setups, what will the value? False. If it is false, workers will be assigned this value. If this is true, it will be assigned only one. Getting it?
Can you repeat that part again?
See, what I'm saying is, if see this is an environment variable. Okay, CI is an environment variable. What
Yes.
are your environment variables? Your environment variables are these, right? If you see here, environment variables can be placed from anywhere, right? You can set it in your code also, so that it remains relevant for the existence of that code execution.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you would see, there are, you set environment variables in your system, right?
Hmm.
Where is that? Properties. Yeah, Kiran, you want to add something?
Uh, what I understood is like we are fetching environment variable of CI, and if it says true, it will set to one worker for the CI. Or if it says false, it will consider this is a local machine, and it will say undefined, or it will calculate how many process we have, and it will set workers as per that, right?
Yes, you're right, right. But just to make sure that you are understanding correct. See, this is what happens if you type this, right, process.env. Okay, if you say console.log, process.env, right? If you do this, what will happen here is, if you run this, right, it will print all the environment variables which are currently available to the process which is running your code, which is what your Node.js. So whatever is visible currently to Node.js for running things, right, the environment variables, you access it through this part, correct? Okay. If you run this, right, process.environment is holding all the environment variables available to the process running Node.js. Okay. And whatever is available to it, it will print. What happens when you run things locally and let's say on Jenkins, right? So when you run things locally, whatever is there, right, in my system, it will print. Let me show you. We'll go here in this example spec. To console log process.en. Oh, prices need process.env. Okay. And let's say environment variables are and this. Okay, let's run it. Let's just debug this. It is starting up. Okay, debug console. It is listening. Output. Okay, what is happening here? Why it is taking too much time? Let me just check. We have set currently the projects is set to running fully parallel as true. Okay, and I have set one project here. Okay, and it's still running. I have set what? Yeah, it opened up the browser. Okay, it opened up the browser and let's see what it did. Yeah, come on, let's go down. If you see, we are here, right? Let us see what it printed. Did it printed something or no? You see, environment variables. Environment variables are these. It did not printed everything, but you can see it is printing where is my Android home app data, what is the directory, what is this chocolatey install, right? What is all this? So it is printing all of that part. Okay. So you can see argument one. These are all the variables, environment variables it has access to. You can check here, right? If you see, you will not find, or I think you will not find CI here. Let's see. See, there is no CI variable being set currently. Correct. What will happen if you run the same code on Jenkins? Jenkins will do what? There, it will automatically create an environment variable, not for your code, not just for this, right? Not just for your Playwright. It will also do it for WebDriver IO. It will also do it for Selenium. It will also do it for anything you run on CI. It will set the variable. It will create a new variable called CI, set the value of CI to true, and create and add it in the environment variable list. And this is what it is using currently, right? As a concept, it is checking it. If you run things on CI, right? If you run things on CI, so this will be set to true if you run things on Jenkins, because Jenkins is the one who is setting this value, right? So all the CI servers are configured this way that they will set this variable, environment variable, to true. And what will happen here is, if that is set, it means you're running things on CI servers. So in that case, the workers, you are limiting your workers to only one in a default case. If it is not running on servers, it means you're running things on locally. In that case, you are setting undefined to workers. And it means you are setting no limit to it. But by default, there would be a limit based on your underlying OS, which is your logical processor. Do we now understand this part?
Yes.
Okay. Anand, we're clear with this? Okay, Anand is speaking on mute or not here. Okay, fine, right? I hope it is clear. Let's just close all this. So is my code still running? Yeah, it is still running. Let's stop this. Okay, fine, right? So we understood this part. Great. Let's close all this. Okay, and we understood about the parallelization, like how we can achieve it. Great. Now the next thing. In our discussion till now, right, there is one missing part which we have to add, and then our understanding of the architecture would get completed. And that part is called test fixtures. Let's have a discussion about it. So in Playwright, there is something called test fixtures. Okay, test fixture. If you open the Playwright website, go to the docs, to fixtures, right? Fixtures. If you go here, fixtures, right? Okay. Playwright test is based on the concept of test fixtures. Test fixtures are used to establish the environment for each test, giving the test everything it needs and nothing else. So what does it mean? How do you write test cases in Playwright in a default way? Again, you're using the concept, you're using the power of test runner, right? Which that Playwright test library, right, provides you. So it contains this test runner also. And using this test runner, right, you can write test cases. How do you write test cases in Playwright? You will create a spec file, .spec.ts, whatever that file you want to create, right? You can just call it. And then you will create a test case by saying test. Like in case of WebDriver.io, or let's say in Jasmine, how you were doing it. You were writing it, right? And then you were giving the name of the test case. It's a test case 1. And then you were saying async, right? And then you were writing the logic here, right? Whatever body of the test case you wanted to write, and then closing the brackets here of the test case. And this is your one test case, right? This is how you were writing the test case in WebDriver.io. But here you were using the power of Jasmine, right? To write the test case. Here, in case of Playwright, it already has an inbuilt thing, right, to write test cases. Okay, it is not using Jasmine, it is using its own way of writing test case. And if you want to write test case, you will have to write test, and then again, it will look like this. You will give a name to your test case, and then you will write something like this, async. Okay, we'll talk about this, and then if you see, right, there is no difference. You were using it there, now you were using test. We are good with this part till now?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
now one more thing. What happens here is, right? If you remember, in case of WebDriver.io, right, what was happening is you have a worker process, right? You had a worker process, worker node, right? They call it as worker node. Here they're calling it as worker process. Okay, so WN and WP. Okay, what was worker node doing there? Over there, right? Based on what you wanted to run, right? You were selecting it in your config file over there, right? On which browser you want to run. And when the worker node was starting, right, it was the responsibility given to worker node, right, as its own responsibility, right, to create the instance of the browser. So there, right, the responsibility of creating the instance of the browser was lying with worker node. So it was creating the instance of the browser instance. But this was the responsibility. It was a job of the worker node to do it. Okay. And after you ran your test case, right, the cleanup part of the browser instance was also a part of your worker node, right? We're good on this. We understand this part, right? We were not doing something extra to start an instance or close an instance. Correct? We were not doing any of that. It was all managed by the WebDriver.io worker nodes. Okay. Now, what happens in case of Playwright? In case of Playwright, right, what happens here is, I told you, in case of worker process, here it is more like a servant. Whatever you will ask him, it will do. Otherwise, if you don't ask him, it will not do. Okay. So worker process just started a thread, and using that thread, you can do something. And over here, right, in case of Playwright, it is not the responsibility of the worker process to start the browser instance. It is not. Okay, it will only do the things which you ask him to do. And okay, so this is the first change. Second change here is that in case of the Playwright, there is something called test fixtures, which have the responsibility or which provides you the capability to start your browser instance, right? Okay, now what happens here is test fixtures, as it was saying, right? Test fixtures are used to establish the environment for each test. So this is like, you can understand, test fixture is like a capability inside Playwright framework, okay, which can give you the power, right, to set up the environment for every test case. When I say environment, I mean starting a new browser instance, making sure it is running, and then start your test case execution on it, and then once you're done with it, close it. So it is like two separate things. Worker process is different, test fixtures is different. It is, but in case of WebDriver, what was happening is both the responsibility was lying with worker node. It was the worker node who was starting a thread and then initiating the browser instance and closing it. But here in this case of the Playwright has two different servants who is doing the job. One is the worker process. He will only do the things given to him. And there is second thing called test fixtures, which has the sole responsibility to make sure that the environment creation and the destroying of the environment, right, is done by this test fixture. What happens is this test fixtures give this task, right, to this worker process. Okay, to this worker process. And once it is given, right, it becomes the job of the worker process to perform it. And that is how things are running. So in case of Playwright, in a overall situation, you might see like it is behaving similar to WebDriver IO, but there is a difference. There's a difference. Okay, here the responsibilities are split. Test fixtures is the one who maintains your environment, provides you that environment, and once you're done, it cleans up that environment. Okay, but to do all of it, it needs a thread or a process. Who provides it? Worker process. In case of WebDriver IO, it was a single person who had all the responsibility of doing things. Okay, now what is test fixtures? Okay, now try to understand test fixtures. I will just say, right, these are like environments, right, which you create per test case. Environment per test case. Per test case. Per test case. Okay, this is the default nature. So what happens when I say environment? If you are running your test case, right, you would like to do what? You would like to create the instance of the browser. Create the instance of the browser. So let's say browser is created. So this is the part of environment creation, right? Which browser to create, right? Which browser to create? Do you want to create a Chrome browser, Firefox browser, and all? So what happens here is this test fixtures take the responsibility of reading that information from the config file and accordingly create the instance of it. So this instance gets created. First thing. Second part, if you look at the browser, right? Okay, so it just creates it, right? And then there is a thing, right, that a tab should be opened up here, right, so that you can type your URL. Okay, that is the second thing which you have to do, which is the second thing, right? And then once these are things are done, right, then you can run your test case, whatever you have written here, right? Once it is done, right, so this is the responsibility of your test case to do it. But this environment which has been created, right, is given by test fixtures to your test, right? And this happens for every test case in Playwright. And once you are done with it, right, once you go through your steps here, you would like to clean up. That's the third step, right, which happens as part of this process, the tear down. So it destroys the environment. Just a second. Okay, so this is how things are running, right? So this, in the third thing, it will tear down the environment. It will destroy the environment, whatever we have. Okay, and this is what test fixtures is. Now, so we understand this part, right? In the test fixtures, we have a new board. In the test fixtures, it looks, just a second, huh? Sorry, guys. Yeah, what I was saying. Yeah, here. See, this test picture, right? When you see it, right? When I say the environment gets hit and all that, it is not very straightforward. Okay, it is not very straightforward. It's a three-step process. It's a three-step process, and for every step we have a naming, right? Which we need to really understand if you want to understand Playwright really well. If you see here, right, fixtures here, there is a whole page for it. It says about built-in fixtures. If you look here, right, you have already used this fixture in the first test, which is fine. These are the fixtures, right? These are the fixtures, built-in fixtures provided to you by the Playwright as a family, right? There are three important things which you have to understand. One is the browser, second is the browser context, and third is the page. Okay, third is the page. If you go to the documentation, it might not get clear down. So let me elaborate in my own words like this. See here. Understand the hierarchy here, right? In the config file, you define like what project you will work on, correct? So you set projects here in the config file. You have defined that you will, let's say you have defined here Chrome, right? Chrome browser to be used, right? Now you have defined in the config file, and now your test case will start to run. Okay, this is your test file. This is your test file. This is your test file where you have written a test. Okay, you have written the test. If you look currently at one of the tests, right? See a test here. This test case, right? You see what is happening here is you wrote a test case. This is what test fixture is. We'll talk about it, but try to ignore it as of now. But try to understand what are you doing here. Ignore these two lines. Just come to this line. What are you doing here? You are saying page dot go to, and you're sitting and you're providing the URL of your website, right? So it is like navigating to a URL, right? So go to, again, the library here looks very different in Playwright, but this is like, you can say that it is similar to URL method, right, in WebDriver.io or Selenium. So we have a method called go to here. But okay, but to do this, right, you need a browser to be opened up. Where are we opening the browser? If you see, I am not writing that code. I'm not writing that code. So somehow that environment is created and given to us, right? And we are able to access that thing, right, using this page part. That's why it is saying page.go to, right? Now what is this page? And I told you there are three things: page, browser, and browser context. Now see here, if I tell you, right, if you see my screen now, let's see this. If I tell you, right, this is one browser, right, this is one browser, this is one browser, and if I want, right, if I right click on it, not here, I think from here, right, I can do it. If you see, I can do what? I can open new incognito mode, right? Like this. If I open it up, it opens a window like this, right? Now tell me, what is the benefit of opening an incognito mode? This is that I have opened a browser called Chrome. Okay, I have opened a browser called Chrome, but within that browser, I also have an option to select this incognito mode or maybe some other profiles. If you see, in my case, I have a lot of profiles. If you see this, right, I have so many profiles, so many profiles. Now, so there is a difference. One is the browser. You're saying that, okay, I need to work on this browser. And then you're also saying that you wanted to work on a specific profile. In this case, If you open this up, right, incognito, this is the incognito mode. Okay, do you understand what is incognito mode?
Yes, this particular session of browser, it won't be holding
Sharing
any
things.
cache
Hmm.
values. Like it will be a fresh browser session.
Right.
Your sessions will be not recorded. See the cookies that holds the values, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Right. That is what it does. But if I use this incognito mode, right, like this, and let's say I open our normal browser instance, right, like this, new window, right. Let's say this one.
Mhm.
Now, also try to understand these two are two different environments, right? Not sharing anything between them. Correct?
Yes.
It will never share anything within it, within these two tabs. These are two different things. So these are like isolated environments being given, right? This is something else, this is something else. Okay. This is, see, I'm just trying to make you aware through what I currently have on the system, right? Through this browser part. How Playwright does it, right? How Playwright does it. Let's go to the board. What Playwright does it does three things. First of all, it looked at, okay, you wanted to work on Chrome. Okay. So what Playwright will do is Playwright will say, okay, I got the information of the browser. Okay, browser. So it will start a browser process. So it will start the Chrome process. Okay. Because you said it will be on Chrome. So your browser is Chrome for sure. Okay, great. But within the browser, it will start a new instance, right? A new isolated instance. A new isolated instance. And that isolated instance is called as browser context, right? So for every test case, you can understand a browser context is like one incognito mode, right? Setup given to every test case, so that that test case, whatever you do in that test case, remains in applicable for that, and there is no sharing of state, right? Whatever this test case will do. So you're saying this test case, right? This test. So what will happen is, first, what Playwright did, it started a browser called Chrome. Within the browser, it started a browser context, which you can understand is like an incognito mode. It started. Why? Because here it will start this kind of an instance, and there you can run your test case. You can run your test case, right? You can run your test case. And why this way? Because using this approach, right, it is giving a separate environment for every test case, so that work done by one test case does not impact the work being done by the second test case. Okay, this is how they separate that concern. And the third thing, in your browsers, right, you can have multiple tabs, correct? Multiple tabs. By default, there is only one tab, right, opened up. In case of Playwright, they term that tab as page. Okay, they term one tab as a page. So what are you doing here? What are you doing here? So what happens, right? What is test fixtures here? Playwright does what? For every test case, it will generate these three things again and again. So you have this test, right? What will happen here is, it will generate a browser thing, it will generate a browser context, and it will generate our default page to it, and it will look like this. It will look like this. You see, this is the entire thing is browser context. This is something generated on Chrome as a browser, and this is one tab, which is your one page. If you wanted to start a new page, you will ask your browser context, which is this, and you will say, browser context, give me a new page, and it will do what? It will create a new tab for you. This is your new page, and you can add a new URL here, right, if you wanted to. But by default, you get one page, which is this. And now right, so page refers to the tab, right? Browser context is this part, and browser is to differentiate on which browser you want to work, Chrome, Firefox, and all, right, depending on the project you have. So this distinction has to be there, and you need to understand this very well in your brain, right? If you understand this well, you will be able to work on Playwright very easy, with very ease. Okay. Now, as I said, right, you have to also understand the structure of it. So at the top level, it is the browser, right? And how does it receive the value? From the projects, depending on which project you will be running, right? From that browser, right, it creates an isolated environment, and that isolated environment is called as browser context. You can understand that as an incognito mode, one different instance of a incognito mode, right? And within that incognito mode, there is a default tab opened up. That default tab is called as a page. If you wanted to open more tabs on that browser context, you can create them, okay, on the browser context. Till now, are we clear with the three concepts: browser, browser context, and page? And these
Yes.
are all three being done by Playwright, not by you. You do not have to do any of this. At least this default thing is given to you by Playwright. Right, Anand?
Got it.
You're good with
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Now,
think that's the reason the method name is like page.goto.
right.
That in
Because
particular, that tab, that particular endpoint needs to be hit.
yes,
Makes sense.
that is how it works. That is
Yeah.
how it works. But
Got
but there is a big but. What happens here is, when you are writing your test case, right? By using test, how did I write? I write it like this: test. I will give a name to my test case one, and then I wrote async. Right? Now what happens here is, these three things are created. These are created by default for every test case, right? But if you want to access them, right, you will have to provide that information here in this box. Okay, you will write your steps here, which is fine. But to access that page thing, right, you need to make that available here. If you There is a concept in development, right, which is called as dependency injection. Okay, which happens in a lot of places. Even TestNG does it, even WebDriver does it in some places, and here also it is happening. So what Playwright does is, Playwright does what? It has created all these things, right, and more things. It creates all this and a lot of other things behind the scenes for every test case, right? And it has created them, right? Now it is your responsibility to consume it. Okay, to consume it. So these are created in the background, and it is your responsibility to consume it. So what you can do is, what it does is, right, you do not have to leave this box as blank. See, try to understand what is this part. If you look at this, what is this? This is like a function, right? Currently it is like you're written, what do we call it as, arrow functions, right? These are arrow functions. You could write, if you look at it, right, you could write something like this also: function f1 and this part, right? This can be written like this, correct? Or you could write it like this also: function, anonymous function, and like this, correct? Or you could write like this, the one which you are writing, like this, right? Now this is without any parameters being provided by the function. But what Playwright says that your function over here, right, that Playwright as a framework will inject some parameters to it, right? But you will have to collect it. So what you have to do is, you will have to give a parameter here, a name to it. So you can write like param, let's say param. So if you're writing param, like you write param here. So what is happening here is param, right, as a parameter here. Now what is happening here is, since Playwright is the one who invokes this function, right, right? So Playwright is the one. So Playwright will inject the value of this param. And you then, once the value is injected, right, you can access it using this param dot. Okay, you can access those values. Okay, now what exactly is the thing which Playwright is injecting? It is injecting a lot of things actually. Let me show you now. Okay, let me write a new test. These are all given by Playwright. I did not write them. Let me write myself. Let's say test case 3. Okay, and then if you see, right, if you see, there is a body thing, right, which you have to write async. Okay, right. So what you need is, this is how you have written test cases in WebDriver, right? You write it and then you write this way, right? in this case of Playwright, right, we need access to those things, right, which Playwright is making available for every test case. If you want the access to all of that, right, you will have to give a variable here. Okay, and what Playwright does is it adds all those things which it is providing, right, inside a single JavaScript object and inject it in your system. So what it does is, it is doing is, what Playwright is doing is, it is creating a JavaScript object. It is adding a lot of keys and values to it. So let's say there is a key called browser, and it will have a value. There is a key called page, it will have a value. There is a key called browser context, and it will have a value. And there are hundreds of other things which it is generating, right? And this entire object it injects in your test case. Okay, over here. But you will have to access it. How do you access it? You just provide any random name which you feel like param. See here. Okay, I can write Akhil also. I can write any name which I feel like. Now, if you see now, param dot. You see, you're getting a list of methods, right? And these are not. If you see, right, all these things, these are like properties. Properties as in keys of that JavaScript object. You see, there are so many things. There are so many things here, right? Now, if you look here, right, so all these things, right, are like what? These are like this. These are like this, right? Browser, page, browser context as different keys in this object, in this entire object, right? Now, if you wanted to access the value of page, right, what can you do? You can go here and say page. You see, you got the page, and now page is like you are accessing the tab on it, right? And on the tab, there are, if you see here, right, there is a library in Playwright which is API here. If you wanted to know all the methods of the page, which is your tab, so what are the methods at page? You wanted to hit the URL, you want to find elements, you wanted to, let's say, navigate to some other things, right? And all this stuff similar to what we have learned in Selenium and WebDriver.io. If you want to do all of that, this is the page, and these are all the methods it has, right, within it. Out of this, I am choosing to use goto, right? What is that goto method? This one, right? If you click on it, returns the main resource response, and in response the method will throw. The method will not throw an error. The navigation will resolve with the first non-redirect response, right? So does it give an example? The method will throw an error usage, right? You can see this is how you have to use, right? This is how you have to use. So let's see here. Page, I'm able to access that page thing, right? Right. So I am accessing the entire object which Playwright is injecting in my test case, right? I collected all of it, and out of that, all the object, I am targeting to work on a particular key from that object, which is page, which I got, and now I have access to all those methods. I will say dot go to, and I will hit the URL here, which is https, let's say podtest.in. Okay, now let me do one thing. Let us run it and see whether it works or not. So I will skip this. I will skip this. And let's run this to see whether it works or not, right? So what we'll do is, yeah, Kiran, please.
So what I understood is Playwright have an object that contains all the fixtures, and the test method have a callback that can use those fixtures. If you want a particular fixture, we can name it like page or context, and we can use the underlying methods. Otherwise, we can create a variable like param, and we can get access to all the fixtures that Playwright have.
Right. See, when I say param here, right, you get access to the entire object which Playwright is injecting in your test case, right?
Okay.
We are good with this?
Yes.
Right? If you want to access a particular key from that object, how do you access it? If you have the access to the object, you will say object name dot key, right? That is how you get it, right?
Yeah.
And this is how we are getting it here.
Yes.
If you see, let us see what if can you access it like this also. But here you will lose out on getting the help on the auto completion, right?
Intelligence.
Right.
Yes.
You will get, so the better way is to use the dot page like this. Yeah, Anand, please.
So okay, if I'm understanding it right, as soon as we write this test method, Playwrights by default is waiting to provide us all the fixtures. It's just we need to capture that into the that param or whatever the variable we want to mention. Is that understanding correct?
No, that is correct. That is correct, right? So playwright, so the right word is it is injecting that complete JavaScript object into your test case, right?
Okay.
And but you will have to so someone is providing you something, right?
Yeah.
You will
You need to
it is
catch it.
like you will have to catch it, right? You're catching it inside into a variable. That is what you're doing. Yeah, Kiran.
Mhm.
We could also say Playwright is passing an object to test methods callback.
Test method.
Callback.
Yeah, that is what is happening, right?
Yes.
See, this is again a method, right? Test is a method provided by test runner of playwright, right? And this is used to write your test cases. So it also has a format. It accepts two parameters: one, your string, which is the name of the test case, and second, the callback function. So
Yes.
what happens here is first it will receive this, so this is a string, and then it will call this function over here, right? Or you can understand like this is like a second parameter of this function, right? So internally, the test, whoever would have created a test method inside playwright, they would have written a concept that okay, we got this input, and internally somewhere, right, it will call this method, right? And that is how things are running. And inside this function, right, we are passing, because playwright will inject a lot of things to it. We're collecting all the things together by this param thing, right? And one of the things within it is called page, and which is used to access things on a particular browser. I mean, on a particular tab, right, of the browser. So let's run it. Let me show you that how it runs, right? So if we go back to config, we have this Chrome part, great, and we have only one test case, right? Okay, great. So let's run this. Playwright, where is how to run it? I'll go to my test case. Okay, so let me just run it from here. I will just go here. What is the problem here? Just a second. Why am I not getting the example spec.ts, which is fine. We are going there, example spec.ts, and test here. We're running on brand Chrome browser, which is also fine. Okay, it is not giving an option. Why? Okay, I will check that part. Let's.
Can you go to the config? Playwright config.ts. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I'm saying this is
But
undefeated.
that is a retry. I thought that is.
Yeah, even I thought it is zero, right? No, it's not zero. It's undefined.
Right.
Okay, okay, leave it. I'll run it from the terminal then. I'll go here and we will trigger it. So we'll say npx playwright test, right? So let's see what happens. So we have one test which looks like this. Oh, I did not use await, right? My bad. I should have used await. Right, see, it fails, right? First argument must use the object destructuring pattern HTTPS. I Sunis, it said HTTPS, right? This is what I'm using. Await. Okay.
Is it saying we have to destruct the object for the
We have to
tab?
do that. We'll have to do that, but it should work. It should have worked this way also.
Yeah, it is allowing the page.
It should have worked that way also. But I'm just checking. Am I missing something here? I don't think I'm missing something. Let us try and explore this. First argument must use the object destruction pattern HTTPS. Okay, it has a problem here on the first part, test case 3. Am I doing something wrong? Okay. Does it have to be a single quotes? Okay. No, let's see. I don't think that should be a problem. Here also, let's use single quotes. Although it's a string, it should have worked, but let's see. Let me do one more thing. Let me just remove these test cases. Let's just keep only one thing here. Okay, let's run it now. I hope session is was not running right. Let's close these browser instances also. Done. Yes, okay, no. So okay, sometimes the browser. Let me just also open my Visual Studio Code maybe.
Did
Let's
you
close.
update the await method?
I added await there, right? It was missing. I should have added it, right? Because it involves promises thing, right? It should be there. Okay, so we have it. Let's run it. Okay, it is coming up. Let's remove all this. Let's open a new terminal. Sorry, come on, man. Yeah, here it is. And bx playwright test. So let's see what it says.
Um,
It is getting ready. Yeah, please.
I just tried to see it online. It says me that this is how it should be. Like it should
The
be
restructuring part.
the page or the param value should be inside the this type of curly braces.
I know, right? That it should be there, but
Okay.
I know, right? It should work, right? But there is one thing which I wanted to understand. First argument must use the object restructuring pattern. Okay, let's Google this. I don't know what this issue about. Let's just check. Okay, do you understand what is restructuring?
No.
We covered this in JavaScript again, right? Sessions. First argument must use the object restructuring pattern. Uh, resolve this below error. Resolve below error in Playwright. The error in Playwright usually means that the function is expecting its first argument to follow the object restructuring pattern. Okay. Okay, so it means I cannot pass this as is. If I need, I will have to pass the entire thing. Okay, but this happens when a function is designed to accept an object as its parameter with specific properties being extracted from it. Okay, to resolve this issue, ensure you're passing an object with the required structure to the function. Incorrect usage, correct usage using object restructuring. They're providing it like this. Example structure. However, the exact solution depends on the specifics. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. Let's do one more thing. Let's go to Playwright dev. We will go to our test case, which is this part. We'll go to our test runner, which is where? Not here, I believe, in the doc section. If you go there, we have our test runner where Playwright. No, parameter test. No. Where is the Playwright test? This is the pages part. Await context dot new page. Oh yeah, where is it? Parameterized test configuration. No, fixtures. We've seen the fixtures part. Test. Where is this test documentation? I wanted to read about the method about this. Okay, it will be in the test part. Okay, got it. It would be here in the API part. it would be under Playwright test. If you click on it, this is the test part, and this is what it takes. It declares a test. It should be details, and the body. Okay. Now what is happening here is we're giving title and the body part. Declare the test, and the body has to. It is saying it has to be this. You can tag. Okay. Let me ask him, right? Let me ask Copilot itself.
That page was having double that counts.
Double quotes, right? You're saying
No, in the place of param,
in the document in the
the
code.
document you just opened, the async page.
This
See,
one, right? You're saying.
yeah,
See, this is okay. Let's see. What I really wanted to avoid that discussion was, see here. If you okay, I think my voice.
So it's like param is accessing whole object that have multiple
yeah,
like pictures, like
but
page.
yeah,
See,
I understood. But maybe
mhm.
that understanding is not established between playwright and the way we want to
See, it
actually
could be the case,
ask
but
it.
let us check this, right? Let us check our understanding on this. But before going there, right? See, okay, let me show you. Let me just copy this test case and write it in a different way. If you write in this way, right? Yeah, Kiran, please.
What I'm understanding is we can access the param object and all the pictures, but we cannot directly destructure the like object and we can directly use it. I guess some sort of this type of issue is happening.
This is, I think this is something which is happening, but let us just validate that part, right? So if you see, right, what they are suggesting is to write in this way, right? Page part. And what they're saying is go and run it this way, they're saying it will work. Right? This is what they're saying. So well, let me do one thing. Let me comment this part. Let me just comment this part. If you see this here, right? If I say npx playwright test, hopefully it should work this time. Let's see. Npx playwright test and let's see. Okay, it is able to run, right? It is able to run, which is fine. It should have worked there also. I will check what's the reasoning. So it opens up the browser instance, right? It opens the browser instance. Okay, it closed also. Okay, fine. What I'm trying to tell you here is, if you see this structuring here, right? This structure here, this is something called as destructuring of your JavaScript object. If let's say, right, if you understand, again, this is again the concept which you've covered in JavaScript. If you look here, on page param name equals to param.page, manually access page.
Yeah, can we try doing this and then page.go to? And that I have searched it and I
Param.page.
found this type.
Okay. Okay, because param.page is not await. Okay, fine. Let's see. Param.page. If you check, right, it returns you the page, right? It returns you the page. So what we can do is we can say let uh, p1 equals to this. Okay, and then what we can do is we can just say p1.goto. This is what you're suggesting, right?
Yes.
Okay, maybe yes, it could work. Let's see. No, it has some other problem. I will look into it. Okay.
Sure.
I'll have to revalidate my understanding on this, but yeah. But what is happening here, right? Why? What is this here, right? Try to understand. This is called as destructuring of a JavaScript objects, and this is what it means. If you have a JavaScript object like this, or an array like this, right? In the case of objects, you have a key value pair, right? Key one, and you could have a value, right? Value one, key two, and value two, right? Let's say you have hundreds of these keys. value 100, right? Whatever that is. Similarly, in the case of this part, right? Let's ignore arrays as of now. Okay, let's not complicate things. Arrays, right? But we have discussed about this also in destructuring concept in JavaScript. But let's just focus on this object part. So if you have a object like this, right? And let's say from, and you wanted to use, you wanted to, let's say there could be multiple use cases. One could be that you want the entire object. So what you could do is you could assign it to like this. You could say const, let's say obj equals to this, right? So tomorrow if you access, if you wanted to access key2, what you can write is you can say obj2 dot key, sorry, obj dot key2, right? And it will give you the value of this, right? Correct. This is how you access in JavaScript. This is the normal way of extracting or working on a particular key within an object. But let's say, right, you are interested in working in some of the items here, right, but not all of them. Let's say I'm receiving this object from someone, right, but it is very lengthy. I am not interested in looking in all the keys, right? So what JavaScript says, okay, I understand that problem, and what you can do is you can use the concept of destructuring. And what destructuring means is that you can do what? You can open the parenthesis, right? And tell which keys you are interested in to work on. So I am interested in key 2, let's say, or I am interested in key 75. So what will happen here is, what JavaScript will do, right? See, someone will inject the entire object in this, right? In this part. So this is, let's say, that async thing, right? Which we had, that method, right? So someone will inject the entire object to it. But using this destructuring concept, right, what will happen is this destructuring concept will do what? It will only take these two things, this one and key 75 from it, and other things, right, it will ignore. It will just take these two things, and the values of key 2, right, would be assigned here, and value of this one, right, would be assigned in this part. And now you can access those in your code like this. You can say key 2 dot, right? So in our concept, in our understanding over there, what is happening there is, what Playwright is doing is, Playwright is saying test, the name of the test case, and then it is saying write async, right? And here it would be injecting something, right? Now it would be injecting an object like this, where you have an object like this. You have a page, so there would be some values for it. There would be browser, there would be browser context, and there are a lot of other things which it has within it. Okay, now what you're saying is, I am not interested in 100 different things. No, I am interested only in the page. So you wrote what? You wrote this parenthesis, which will now destructure this entire object, because this entire thing is anyhow given to here, right? This is something which Playwright will inject. But out of all this, you are interested only in the page portion. So you will say page. The name of the parameter has to match to what you want to extract. So you are interested in page, so you will say page. And then you are using page here. Page dot, as soon as you do a dot, it will give you the methods which are available here, right? Whatever value you have, right? Since it's a page object which you have in Playwright, you will get access to all the methods here, right? Which I just told you about. Where is the page thing? Classes. This is the doc section, page part, right? Not this. So this is the entire object, right, which you will be given, and you will get access to all these methods. Okay, and this is how things are working. Okay, this is how the things are working. So you can say page dot go to. It will go and hit the URL, right? This is how it will work. Let us do one more thing. Let me ask Playwright. Okay, let me ask Copilot, what is wrong with this code in Playwright? In Playwright, what is the problem with below code? What is the problem with below code? The issue with provide code in how you're trying to access the page object from the parent parameter. In test functions, usually use the test object provided by Playwright. This object manages fixtures like page. However, you seem to be accessing page through an incorrect mechanism. Here you can fix it. Okay. So I think it is okay. Is destructured directly from the test functions parameters which Playwright provides. The param can we how to access it without destructuring? Without destructuring, can we do it? Destructuring, structuring. If you prefer not to use, you can access page object directly from the parameter by using its default structure as provided by the Playwright test framework. Here's an example. Access page without destructuring. Okay. But I did it the other approach, right? Of accessing through dot. It is not accessing there. You can access page as a property of the param without directly destructuring. But destructuring is generally preferred for clarity and convenience. Let me know if you run into issue. Okay, but I did the same thing, right? But in not this part, but I did it this way. Okay, maybe this supports and that does not support, I believe. Let's do it. Let's try to run it this way. So if you run it, let's see whether it works or not. No. Okay. I know it works, right? And it has, there is a problem there. I'll fix it, right? But again, but I hope you're understanding the point, right? That let's park this away, right? But you understood what destructuring means and what this test case needs, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now one more thing. This is not the only thing which this object, the entire object had. It has page. If you want to access it, you can see, right? If you see here, right? This if you go to test, right? See here, what does test accept? It accepts a title, which is this texting TC3, and then it is accepting a body, which is a combination of four different things. What is that? It is playwright test arguments, playwright test options, and playwright worker arguments, and playwright worker options. Let me write it here. Yeah, let's open a new page. So what is happening here is in the test part, right? This is your text string, and over here, right? What can you provide? Wait, let's go back. If you see this, what can you provide? You can provide a body, right? And that body, right, will receive these four things as part of it, right? Playwright test args, playwright test options, playwright worker arguments, and playwright writer worker options, like this. Yes. So worker options and test options, right? So it is like here, right? What you can provide is you can provide four things. One is playwright test args. Second is playwright test options. Third thing is playwright worker args. And fourth is worker options. Playwright, right? So it is giving you, right? So these are all different classes, and every class has some methods within it, right? So combiningly, all the methods coming from here, 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 combined into a JavaScript object, right? Like this, different. Let's say these first four are coming from here, right? From this part. Next four are coming from this part. Next four are coming from somewhere else, right? Next hundreds are coming from here, right? So and so all of this are combined into a JavaScript object and injected into your test case. From there, it is saying that you what it is currently doing, it is asking you to specify out of these what you really wanted to access. You can access page, and there are other things which you can access, but I think it is written in a way that you will have to specify it what you're interested in. So let's see, right, what I'm interested in. So this is page part. If I'm interested in, let's say, browser, you can see I'm interested and I can write it and I can access it. If you're interested in browser context, yes, browser context. Okay, it should have, doesn't it give browser context in this option? Okay, let us see. It says test options and test args, right? So we'll have that information here. Let me just close this, go to this part. All the information of this, right? I think resides here. Test runner, test reporter, test runner part, test options, right? Test options. So if you see, right, all of these things, right, are injected into that object. Let's try to find this. Let's say, do we get the accept downloads? Let's see. I'm not sure. You see, you got that accept downloads. It is available here. If you look for, let's say, channel, you see channel is there. So this is coming from where? This is coming from test options. Test options. This part. Test args. Do they have a library which shows that? Let's see. Test args. Not sure where test args would be. This is not what it injects. It definitely injects this part. Worker info. Config parallel index. No, this is not what it injects. Let us try this. Does it inject info part? Just a second. No, it is args and options. Okay, it will not be there, but yeah, we can access it if we wanted to. Worker, service workers. Okay, it is nothing else. Okay, right, but I hope, right, you're getting the point what I'm trying to say, right? It is injecting from 4 different things into a single JavaScript object, and you will have to destructure it to access the ones which you really need. Okay, by default, how would you write in majority of your cases? You will be just working on the page, because page give you access to that tab of the new browser context which is open for that browser. Okay, right? So when you say page, it means the browser was created, the browser context was created, and the page is created. Okay, now couple of things more. Let's say you have the intention to start a new page. When I say page, a new tab. If you see this in the current context, right, it will do what? It will open a new browser. There, it will get to know, okay, I need to open a new browser. Within that browser, it will open a new browser context like an instance, and in that instance, it will open this tab. Okay, now I want to open a new tab. So I want to open a new tab. So it opened a browser instance, right, which we are calling as what? Browser context. And within that browser context, it has opened a new tab which we are calling as page. Okay, page. So all of this is done by Playwright. And this is called as TestFixtures, right? And this is all done by Playwright, and it's a built-in feature. Okay, so every test case will receive a browser, this kind of a setup, so that those are isolated from each other. So execution of test case 1 will be happening here. For test case 2, it will be a new browser context and a new tab where things can happen. So, and why? What is the browser context? Let me just tell this also, right? Page we understand, it's a tab, right? Why do we need browser context? Why is it not just the browser? Okay, browser context. Browser context. If you see, where is it? Fixtures, right? Yeah, we are here, right? Built-in fixtures. If you go browser context, let's go there. Browser context provides a way to operate multiple independent browser sessions. If a page opens another page, okay, leave it. Playwright allows creating isolated, non-persistent browser context with this method. Does not write any browsing data to disk. See, what it means is it's a non-persistent browser. So it will not persist the data which will remain there, right? It would be deleted once it is cleaned up, once the session is gone. Also, it will not, it will, whatever cookies is collect, right? It will remain within that session. So it does not have the impact on other sessions. Okay. So it's like a new instance, right? A new incognito instance for every test case you get. And whatever you do in that particular session remains for that session and for the test case only. Other test cases will never get a chance to access those information. Okay, and that's what test isolation is all about from Playwright side, right? they are giving you the environment using which you can achieve test as solution, right? But it is up to you when you define your test case steps, what are you writing there, right? So it will have to be you will have to think about it while you design your test cases. Okay, the last part for today, right? So we understood this thing. Let us see things. Let us see something in action. If you go there, right, page.go to, you saw that it opens a browser instance and it clicks on it. I mean, it opens a new tab and it hits this URL. Now, let's say I want to open a new tab on it. How will I do it? To open a new tab, right? See, try to understand. This page is a sub part of the browser context, right? So this page belongs to this context. If you want to open a new page, you will have to somehow access this browser context. You will have to access this browser context, and on this browser context, you will have to say open a new page. For browser context, you can see we are here, right? We are on the browser context library. So these are all the methods available. You want to open a new page, you will say new page. Creates a new page in the browser context. Let us see how we'll achieve it. Let's keep it here, and pages part. Let's open this also. So currently we have the access to the page object, which is this one, right? Now, using this page object, you can get access to the context. You can get to know, okay, what context opened this page. So if you want to access it, you will say context. Gets the browser context that the page belongs to. Okay. So what we'll do is, let us see, page dot context. What does it return? It returns you a browser context. Okay. Notice one thing. Some of the methods, right, will say they are returning promises, like this one, text content, right? It returns a promise. But when you look at, so whenever you see a promise, make sure you're using await. But if you see something, right, which does not use a promise, like in this case, it says browser context. It does not say promise, and within that Angular bracket, it's a browser context. So there is no need to use await over there, right? It has no impact on it. So context, right? It's a method. It's a method, I believe, right? Or it's a property. It's a method, right? It's a method. So we will collect it somewhere. So we'll say let context equals to this, right? So we collected it. Now we got the access to the context which has opened this page. What I will do is, using that context, I can open as many pages I want in that session. How will I do it? I will say await. Now, okay, let me write first context. Now it will give you the methods, right, which are available at this context, browser context. All these methods are now accessible. So what we'll do is context dot new page. See here, new page. Now if you look at the new page, see what does it return? It returns you a promise of page. So it will open a new tab in that session, right? But it returns your promise. So you should collect it in a promise. You should collect it using await, right? So you will write await, and you will say page 2, let's say, right, like this. And now, the first tab was opening this URL. In the second tab, you would like to open a new URL. You will say p2.goto, and you will say https youtube.com/@podcast, my channel of YouTube, right? And it will say will provide await. Why? Because goto also returns you a promise. Okay, we understood this part. So now we were on the page, we moved back to the context, and in the context, I can open new tabs. Okay, let us see whether it works or not. Okay, let us see the section. It opened a new browser. You can see a new tab, and it opened podcast.in. Let us see what it will do now. It's settling down. It opened a new tab, right, in the same session, and it opened this URL of podcast, right, the channel page of my channel. Okay, and then it closed. We understood this part, right?
Yes.
Now one more thing. There's a third level which is pending. The browser, right? So what we did was, from this page, right, from the page, you were able to access the context by doing what? By saying context, and it was pointing to this context, right? And this context, you wanted to open a new page, so you said dot new page, and it opened a new page. What if I want to open a new session, a new isolated session in the same test case? How will I do it? For doing that, you will have to go one step back, which is your browser level. Okay, so you will do what? From this browser context, you will have to somehow reach to the browser, and there is a method to reach, which is this one. Browser context. There is a session. There is a method called browser. Returns the browser instance of the context. If it was launched as a persistent context, null gets returned. If it is, but in our case, it will return the instance, right? It returns the browser instance of the context. So let's see what it will do. We'll go back. We have this context here, right? So let's context dot browser, and you can see it returns you a null or a browser, right? So we'll see that part, but it returns you that. So I'll collect it, and I will collect it in a browser called this. Browser is this part. Okay, I collected it. Now I wanted to open a new session altogether, right? Not in that session, a new session of the browser. Okay, so will I do it? Browser dot, and I wanted to open a new session, a new context, right? So there's a method called new context. So if you open it up, it will open a new context, and I will collect. Let's see what it does. It returns you a promise, right? So I will have to put await to it, and I will have to collect it into a context, let's say C2, and it will open a new instance of the browser, right? What browser? The browser which was given this to this test case to run. If it was Chrome, it will open a Chrome. If it was a Firefox, it will open a Firefox thing. C2 dot, and now C2 is the context, and using the context, you will open a new tab or a new page, right? Or you can access the default, okay, pages, right? You can access the pages. By default, it opens one pages to it, right? So if you wanted to collect, you can say pages. Since it will return you an array, pages, it returns you an array, and within the array you can access, let's say, the first item from it, and you can say, can I access it? Okay, let me collect. Let pages equals to this, and this returns you what? It's a method, right? So it returns you the pages, array of page. Okay, and I will say pages. I'm forgetting, we do not write it this way, right? We write it this way, 0 dot, and I wanted to do what? Go to, and it will be await. Okay, what is happening here? Pages is possibly undefined. No, it is not undefined. It will receive something, so it will work actually. Let's see. HTTPS, and I will open what? I will open this part. Let's just do one thing. I have a new URL. Just a second. Udemy. I launched that course a few days back. Let us access that one. So this is my course. Okay, I wanted to open it. Why it is opening this way? To hero. Okay, yeah, I don't want to start this. Okay, let's close this. Here, right? So I'll use this one. Now let's see what it will do, right? I hope it will not create an issue, but let's try. So what I'm saying is it will do this time thing now, right? It will do what I'm suggesting is what it will do is we had it will, first of all, it will open one instance of the browser. So we had browser. In the browser, it opened up one browser context, which is this session, and inside this it opened up page, which is this part, right? and it will do what? It will hit pod test here, right? So it will open pod test here URL, and then what you're doing is you are going back to the context and you say add a new page, right? And here it will open a new tab, and it will open my YouTube channel here, right? The third thing which I'm doing is it is saying, just a second now. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So what I'm doing now is I'm saying I'm on the context. So it did this part, right? After this, what I'm saying is I have the access to the context, and from the context, I will reach out to the browser. And on the browser, I will say browser dot new context, right? And it will do what? It will open a new instance of the browser. It will by default open a page, right? And then over here, I'm hitting the Udemy URL over there. Okay, so you should see these things happening. One session, second session. In the first session, you will see two tabs. In the second session, you will see one tab. All is happening in one test case. Let's go back. Let's run it. If this does not get a problem, it should work. Let's run it. See, we will go one by one in all the libraries, pages, browser context, right, to understand like what it provides. So okay, it is working, right? Let us see. This is one browser instance being opened up. You can see both the URLs were hit, Fortes and YouTube. Now it should open a new browser instance, keeping this alive. It should not close this. Okay, it is. Let's wait for this to render. It closed. No, it should not have closed. Okay, there is a problem here, right? Okay. Leave it. I'll do other thing then. What I will do is, I got a context, right? So what I'll do is, I will not say pages, rather I will open a new page here. Okay, I think the pages are not by default available. I'll have to create the page. My bad, sorry. It should create a page, and new page will do what? It will be an await, right? Promise of page. It should be an await, and it will create a page. And what I will do is, on that page part, okay, this will not work. Just a second. Let p2 equals to this, p3 equals to, let's say p3 equals to this, and I will say p3 dot go to, and I will put await to it. Okay, so this should work. It's not undefined. I'm saying new page here, right? It should work actually. Let's run it. Control C and paste here, right? So it opened the first browser instance, one tab, one page, second page. Now it should open a new context. Come on, man, get loaded. You see, a new browser instance was opened up, and here it is hitting this tab, right? This URL here, and this is how things are executing. We understood this, right? How the flow works,
Yes.
right? How the
Yes.
flow works.
Yes.
Browser context, and the page, and you can move in the reverse direction if you want to achieve things in a different browser or on a different page. Okay, and this is what you need to understand about Playwright, and this is what you get, right? This is test fixtures, right? There are three important test fixtures which are provided inbuilt by Playwright: pages, browser context, and the browser. Okay, but while you will be writing your test case, you would be almost every time you will be working on a page level. So make sure you use page here, right? And you will now also understand why we have written this parenthesis. This is the structuring. You have the bigger object. Out of that object, you wanted only one thing from it, which is page, which you're providing. Okay, and you can access it, and you can work accordingly. Okay, this is what I wanted to cover today, and this also brings right to us to the closure of the architecture discussion of Playwright. Okay, I hope we have spent 3 days just to understand all this concept, and this is the basic building block of Playwright. We understood how things works at the worker process, how things are running right on the what is projects, what is devices, how the Chrome browsers are being used, sorry, how the browsers are used, what is the underlying architecture of Playwright, what is a Playwright protocol, what are the components involved, right? Why there is a customized browser for Chromium, WebKit, and Firefox. And today we understood more in depth about the real functioning of the test case. What is the test case? How do you do all of this? Okay, and this completes all the discussion. From tomorrow onwards, we will delve into other things of Playwright, right?
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
for the detailed explanation. I understood every bit of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, and see again, without going into detail, just covering the from the superficial layer, right? It never helps. You will forget it the next day. So it is better to understand things in a better way. I mean, in a depth way. And I hope this will really help everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. Let's. Okay. Tomorrow is Saturday and Sunday, so we'll not. So I do not plan to have a class. So we'll meet on Monday. Okay. Monday
Okay.
morning time. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye. Take care.
Only thing I have to
Thanks.
ask.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. Please.
So are we covering the Jenkins part for the website IO?
Yeah. So we will be covering it, right? See, it will depend, right? I want to cover GitHub Actions for Playwright.
Okay.
So you're asking for web dev, are you?
Right.
Yeah, I will cover it, right? Maybe not this week. I will see, right? When I will have
Okay.
time, right? I will have to. I want to fix some test cases there. Okay. Once I fix it, I would like to show you. Okay, and I want to have that setup ready. I am not getting that much time right now, so once I get it, I will schedule a class, but it could be on a weekend,
Sure.
whenever it happens, right?
Sure.
Or if I don't get time, I will do it along with Playwright once we reach there.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So maybe at that point of time I'll do it. But with Playwright, I will cover through GitHub Actions because that is something which is inbuilt to it. And I think people are using GitHub Actions only with Playwright. So it will make more sense to use it. Provided I do not get stuck into any technicality of GitHub Actions. But let's see.
Yes. Sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.